This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Good evening, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for June 16, 2023. And in the news this evening, persons of interest in attack on Cumberland High student detained. The 4 people named as the persons of interest in connection with Thursday's violent attack on a Cumberland High School student in Portmore St. Catherine are in custody. The suspects surrendered to the Greater Portmore Police on Friday afternoon, hours after their names were published by the Jamaica Constabulary Force. They are to be questioned by detectives attached to the St. Catherine South Police. There has been much public outrage since a video surfaced showing the 16-year-old student being attacked and stabbed by a group of men on Cumberland Drive. The student is reportedly in stable condition at hospital after suffering severe head wounds. Superintendent Hopton Nicholson, operations officer for the St. Catherine South Police, said the incident stemmed from a dispute among students. But the attack, he said, was a reprisal carried out by persons from the community who are not affiliated with the school. Superintendent Nicholson said the police met Friday with school administrators and representatives of the Ministry of Education at Cumberland High. He said discussions centered on how to address issues affecting the school and the wider community. Brothers held for fatal stabbing of man in Portland. 2 brothers are in custody in Portland in connection with the fatal stabbing of a man in Lenox, Orange Bay on Wednesday. The deceased is 37-year-old laborer Leighton Biggs, otherwise called the Zeeks, of the same community. It is reported that about 8:30 p.m., Mr. Biggs went to his uncle's home to complain about the sharing of money he did for work with one of the suspects. The man arrived at the location and an argument developed with Mr. Biggs. The suspect's brother came on the scene and the argument intensified. It's further reported that Mr. Biggs' uncle went inside his house and shortly after saw his nephew running toward him, bleeding from a wound to the left side of his chest. Mr. Biggs was pronounced dead at hospital. A ratchet knife was seized. The brothers were arrested. Double murder in Lilliput St James. 2 people, including a 63-year-old dressmaker, were fatally shot during an attack at Bobman Hill in Lilliput St James on Thursday. The deceased are Vernice Blackwood, otherwise called Miss Vern of Bobman, and the 28-year-old music producer Romario Brumfield, otherwise called Marco, of Randall Hill in Lilliput. Residents reported hearing several explosions and summoned the police. On the arrival of the police, Miss Blackwood was seen on a veranda with bullet wounds to the upper body. Mr. Brumfield was found at the back of the house with wounds to his upper body. Miss Blackwood and Mr. Brumfield were transported to hospital where they were pronounced dead. 9 5.56 spent casings used in M16 rifles and 3 9mm casings were found at the scene. The police say no motive has been established for the attack. 2 more people killed in Westmoreland. The Westmoreland police are probing 2 more murders in the parish on Friday morning. The victims are 29-year-old Ian Johnson and 20-year-old Dominic Poyser. Mr. Johnson was chased and chopped multiple times by a man during a dispute at Morgan's Bridge about 12:30 a.m. He later died at hospital. The suspect was held and handed over to the police by residents. In another incident about 2 a.m., Mr. Poyser was inside a house with his relatives on Darling Street, Savannah Lamar, when he was fatally shot. Investigators say 2 men were seen running away from the crime scene. Inmate fatally stabbed at the Tower Street Correctional Facility. The police and officials of the Department of Correctional Services are investigating the circumstances that led to the stabbing death of an inmate at the Tower Street Adult Correctional Center in Kingston. Melvin Hill was reportedly stabbed by another inmate during a dispute about 1 o'clock Friday afternoon. The Independent Commission of Investigations is also probing the incident. Police identify a woman whose body was found in Monica St. Anne. The police have identified the body of a woman found murdered in Monica St. Anne on Friday morning. She is 48-year-old Novlet Chambers of Clapham District in Monique. Residents stumbled upon the body in a garden along the main road and called the police. The body had a wound to the head. Investigators say Ms. Chambers was killed by unknown assailants. Oberlin High student stabbed in Lawrence Tavern. An 18-year-old Oberlin High School student was rushed to hospital after he was stabbed by another student a short while ago in Lawrence Tavern Square in rural St. Andrew. The police are searching for the other student. The news understands that the injured student was initially rushed to the nearby Lawrence Tavern Health Center but was referred to the Kingston Public Hospital. He was reportedly stabbed in his back around 2:40 p.m. The incident follows yesterday's stabbing of a male Cumberland High School student. He is still hospitalized. Trial readiness hearing for Beachy Stout McDonald postponed. A trial readiness hearing for Portland businessman Everton Beachy Stout McDonald, who is charged with the murder of his wife Tonya, has been postponed until July 31. McDonald and his co-accused Oscar Barnes are to be tried September 18, 2023 to November 3, 2023. The hearing was pushed back to allow the parties to execute the agreed document form, as well as to allow the prosecution to confirm that all witnesses are available, and for Mr. Barnes's attorney Ernest Davis to attend. Mr. McDonald is represented by attorneys Earl Hamilton, Courtney Rowe, Christopher Townsend, and John Jacobs. Bail was extended for Mr. Barnes, while Mr. McDonald was further remanded. Prior to Friday's adjournment, Home Circuit Court Judge Vinette Graham Allen warned that the trial date will not be vacated. Linton Berry free after 31 years in prison for murdering his former lover. Former District Constable and garage operator Linton Berry was today released from the Tower Street Adult Correctional Center in Kingston after spending 31 years behind the bars for murder. Berry came to national attention in 1987 when he was arrested and charged with the murder of his former lover, 36-year-old Paulette Zadie. "I feel happy to be out," said Berry, who is now 71. He, however, expressed a deep disappointment that so many of his friends died while he was incarcerated. Berry said he is looking forward to spending quality time with close family members and friends. He said while behind the bars, he did a lot to make life easier for many prisoners. He noted that life in prison is very rough and said that more needs to be done by the government to improve the quality of life of prisoners. He said there is an urgent need for prisoners to be given proper diet and toilet facilities so they can dispose of their waste in a civilized manner. "I have spent a total of 31 years in prison, and after the second conviction in 1997, I spent 1 day short of 26 years and 4 months in prison before I was released today," said Berry. Berry was convicted in 1988 and sentenced to hang for Zadie's murder. But in 1992, the United Kingdom-based United Privy, Jamaica's highest court, overturned the conviction and ruled that the local courts must decide if there should be a retrial. Berry was removed from death row in July 1992. A retrial was ordered, and on February 17, 1997, he was convicted of murder and was sentenced to life imprisonment and ordered to serve 25 years before he was eligible for parole. Berry's defense was that he and the deceased met at the foot of Jack's Hill in St. Andrew, and she grabbed his firearm, which he said went off accidentally as he tried to retrieve it from her. But the prosecution laid evidence that jealousy was the motive for the murder because there were threats in relation to the deceased woman's marriage to Jimmy Zadie. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.